Good morning. Here we have a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in the year 1954. 1954. And it's speaking about the difference between Abraham and Yitzchak. Now, in this week's Torah portion, I'm sure you know that it has a lot of details in it, and one of them is the Akedah, how Abraham took Yitzchak to sacrifice him and kill him for God, which that's pretty strange. But if you look at who Abraham and Yitzchak were, so it gets even stranger. And that's what we'll talk about today. Let's see if we can do this over here. We go like this. All right. Before we start, let's give charity. First of all, we begin the day with charity. Charity saves from all bad things, and it brings all good things. The best of all is the future redemption, the Geula. Okay, Aina from the Milas, one of the Suvilcha Avram Avinu is Sugakuman, one of the advantages, the benefits that Abraham received Durch mitzvahs milah, by means of circumcising himself. So we see that Abraham was he made a covenant with God by means of circumcision. We talked about this the whole week. What exactly was accomplished, and what was what was symbolized by the circumcision. And when Abraham was circumcised, his name, God changed his name, and then He made a covenant with him to give him the land of Israel, which we had begun like 24 years earlier, when God told Abraham, Lech Lecha, last week, and He made a covenant between the pieces, between the pieces of the animals. Abraham, man, that was last week. But this week, God really finalized it, and He said, now I'm going to give you the land of Israel, and I'm going to give you a permanent covenant with me. Your people are going to be my people. The people that come from you, Abraham, are going to be your direct relatives, are going to be my children, beginning with Yitzchak. And that was one of the advantages. After Abraham was circumcised, then he could give birth to Yitzchak. He'd been praying for Yitzchak since he became aware of God, at least for the last 75 years. At least for the last 25 years, since God told him, Lech Lecha. He was praying to God, but seemingly even before that. And God did not answer his prayers. Finally, now he's 99 years old. And God says, circumcise yourself, and I'll change your name, and I'll give you the land of Israel, and I'll give you a permanent covenant between me and all of your children. They should also be circumcised just like you are. And now you're going to get the son that you wanted, Yitzchak. And sure enough, he gets Yitzchak, and Yitzchak is born. And it's a big miracle. And then, that's what we're going to talk about here. But then, 37 years later, Yitzchak was 37 years old, and Abraham then was 137. So Abraham tells Abraham to take Yitzchak and sacrifice it. That's the end of this week's Torah portion. So this week's Torah portion begins just after Yitzchak was born, just after he was born. And it ends when Abraham is taking Yitzchak to sacrifice him and kill him, which we'll talk about that in the end, but that's not what this speech is talking about. So a person can ask a question, a simple question. Abraham, he's the founder of Judaism, right? Abraham is the founder of Judaism. Now, most other religions, I'm not an expert in religions, but as far as I know, all of the other religions are based on one person. One person comes along and he's got a message, and that's it. And his message is carried out for all the generations, and he's revered and he is followed, and sometimes he's worshipped or whatever. And here we got Judaism, which is in a way the only true religion, dat emet. It's the only true religion in the world because we worship the true God who gave the Torah, took the Jews out of Egypt, gave them all the Torah, revealed himself to them. There's no other religion that claims a thing like that. He's creating everything all the time, creating you, creating me. We got the true religion. And here we have one person is not enough. Right? One person is not enough. And maybe you can even ask the other question. I mean, there's other religions that claim to be the replacements of Judaism. Right? They claim to be the replacements of Judaism. So why didn't they copy something like this also? Why is it that those religions have only one person leading them? Right? They don't have 3, 4, 5. In fact, in Judaism, we have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then we got Moses also. And Moses isn't enough. And all of a sudden comes along David. King David, he's going to be the Moshiach. King David was the first Moshiach, he's going to be the last. Maimonides says. So what do you have to have so many fathers for? Especially Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. What do you have to have 3 fathers for? Why not just have Abraham? That's it. What's the point? Okay. The rest of them we're not going to talk about. Let's just talk about Abraham and Isaac. And then from that, understand why there has to be 2. We can understand why there has to be more later. I know from the Milas, one of the benefits, Suvelcha Avram Avinu, to which Abraham had come, Durich Mitzvahs Milah, by means of circumcising himself, as Demel, that then is given Roy, then he could be fit to Geborn Yitzchak, to give birth to Yitzchak. Before that, he gave birth to Yishmael. He gave birth to Yishmael, and he's 13 years earlier. And Yishmael was also he was also a very fitting, good person, to the point where Abraham, when God told Abraham, "You're going to have a son, Yitzchak," as Abraham said, "I already have a son, Yishmael. Yishmael should be in front of you." And God said, "No. Yishmael, don't worry about him. I'll tell you about him later. But Yishmael is not going to be the one. It's going to be Yitzchak. And from Yitzchak, he's going to have also sons that you might think that Esav was a son also of Yitzchak. So it's not, your offspring is going to be Yitzchak. And from Yitzchak, his offspring really is only going to be Yaakov." So that's the 3 fathers. Okay, why do we have to have Avram and Yitzchak? Let's talk about Avram and Yitzchak first. The rabbis said, like the rabbis say in the Midrash, Reish Rabbah, as Yitzchak had gedarf geborn werden, that Yitzchak had to be born mitipa kadusha kadavka, from a drop morning. He had to be born from a holy seed. In other words, Abraham had to be circumcised in order to give birth to Yitzchak. Via state, like it says, Oich der Lashon, Asher Kiddush Yedid Mi Beten. That's what we say in the circumcision. After we make a circumcision, so there's blessings that are made. And the one who does a circumcision said, Asher Kiddush Yedid Mi Beten v'chok b'sero Yisom. Says that God, the first child to be born after Abraham circumcised himself was Yitzchak. He said he sanctified Yitzchak from the womb. Why was he sanctified from? What does he mean from the womb? From the womb, from the seed of Abraham that came from is circumcised. He was circumcised. Therefore, is Avram Chach Oich Farmitzvahs, even before the circumcision. His gavot was a merkava tzelokus. He was a holy person, and he was a vehicle for God. He didn't do, say, think, feel anything that God didn't want. He only received inspiration from God, not from his own urges, from his own desires. So that was before he circumcised. Aber is noch nit given Roy, but he wasn't fit to have Yitzchak to have Yitzchak. Nor b'shas is zugekommen when he came to v'haya tamim, then it would be complete by circumcision. Now, here's a sort of a strange thing, which the Rebbe is not mentioning in this sikha. Is number one that when God changed Abraham's name to Avraham, hey, so then he gave him complete control over 5 organs. He says his 2 eyes, his 2 ears, and his mouth. There's other opinions what it is, but in other words, when Avram was circumcised, then he became pure. But before that, he was also completely controlling himself. God chose him already. God had chosen him already after he had served him. He'd been thrown into a fiery furnace, etc. So after Abraham was circumcised, morning. So before Abraham was circumcised, he already was pure, serving God 99 years, right? It says he recognized God when he was 3 years old. So he'd been serving God, let's say, for when he got the circumcision, it was 99. So let's say he'd been serving God for 96 years, 90 years, however long it was. Some say, totally recognized God when he was 40, 41. So he'd been serving God for 50 years, 50, 60 years. So when the one of the main things that he got when he was circumcised is that he became tamim, complete. How could he become complete? He was born with a foreskin, and he took it off, so that makes him incomplete. So the answer is no, that God creates us with things that have to be removed. Everyone is born with bad character traits. The Rebbe spoke about that once in a speech about homosexuality. And people say that it's natural. The Rebbe said, it's true, it's natural, and natural doesn't mean that it's good. There's things that have to, some people are born naturally with anger. They have a tendency to be lustful, other people to be depressed, other people have tendency to be liars, to be cheaters, to be this. People have tendency to do destructive or self-destructive things. And therefore, though, that has to be removed, just like the circumcision. That's the job of the Jewish people, is to tell everybody what has to be removed and what has to be done. Nevertheless, once things are removed, as then the results can be different. And that's why Abraham, even though he gave birth to Yishmael before he was circumcised, nevertheless, God said that Ishmael is not what I want. I want there to be Yitzchak, and you have to be circumcised in order to get it. And only then can come a son called Yitzchak. Okay, what's the difference between them? There's another speech from the Lubavitcher Rebbe where he says, what's the difference between Yitzchak and Yishmael? And that's also very powerful. And the Rebbe stresses that Yishmael was also very, how do you say, he came from a very holy background. His mother was called Hagar, but she was also called Keturah. And she was called Keturah because her deeds were like the Ketoret, like the incense. They were pleasing to God like the incense in the Holy Temple. The mother of Yishmael. Her deeds were pleasing to God like the incense in the Holy Temple. And that she had been the daughter of Paro. And she left in order to become the servant of Abraham. So you see that she was pretty devoted, and she was also, it says her deeds were holy. And obviously she passed this on to Ishmael. And Ishmael was also circumcised. Ishmael also got circumcised. He got circumcised when he was 13 years old. They were circumcised on the same day. So Ishmael was 13 years old, he was circumcised, which was, he had to decide, he had to do it from his own agreement. And Yitzchak was circumcised when he was 8 days old. He didn't agree to anything. So Yishmael said to Yitzchak, I'm better than you, right? I'm better than you. My mother was totally self-sacrificing. And also, I have the circumcision, I decided. And the Rebbe said that's exactly the point. Judaism cannot be according to normal. Yitzchak's birth was above normal. Sarah was already 90 years old. Abraham was 100 years old when he was born. That's in fact where his name Yitzchak comes. You ever see that? Before Yud, the 10 tests that Abraham went, 10 is 10. Tzaddik is the age of his mother. Kuf is the age of his father, 90 and 100. And Chesed, he was circumcised when he was 8 days old. He says the whole essence of Judaism is above understanding. Judaism is not normal. As soon as you try to normalize Judaism, you wreck it. You destroy it. As soon as you start sticking things into Judaism according to what you understand, right? I understand that you don't have to go according to the rabbis. I understand you don't have to go according to the rabbinical laws. What's this? There's some rabbinical laws don't make any sense. I don't have that. As soon as you do that, you wreck Judaism. It's not Judaism anymore. You have to have Judaism like Yitzchak. The whole thing you have to remember all the time that it's miraculous, it's purely from God, doesn't make any sense, and it comes only from miracles, and you have to accept it above understanding. Okay, here we have Yitzchak. It says, okay, why did there have to be Yitzchak and Avram? It says one of the differences between Yitzchak and Abraham is Varum by Avram, because by Abraham, Geburt, when Abraham was born, Gefind mer nit as es soll haben gedarf sein der demste Tanai. There's no condition. Abraham was born without the condition. Yitzchak was born on the condition that Abraham was circumcised. Abraham was circumcised. In other words, before Yitzchak could be born, the world had to be fixed up. Abraham had to circumcise himself. It wasn't good the way he was, which is not the case. Abraham was born in the world that it was okay. You didn't have to fix anything up. Abraham's mother and father didn't have to have anything special preparations. Before Abraham was born, Yitzchak was born, you had to remove something bad. And Abraham was born. It was just without any conditions. Oh, but Yitzchak's born. But Yitzchak being born, afilu noch alla friedeket milos, even after all the other good qualities of Abraham, that God chose him and God made a covenant with him, couldn't be born until either before is until Abraham was circumcised, and only then was he complete. So Yitzchak had to come from Abraham after Abraham was circumcised. So we see already that Yitzchak's birth, even though it was miraculous, true, Abraham was already 99 years old, 100 years old when he was born, right? He was born. But nevertheless, there was a condition. Yitzchak, his birth depended on removing something bad, dealing with the bad in the world, even his birth. Was is their tam? What's the reason for was Yitzchak had gedarf geboren werden mitten mitipa kedusha? Why was it that Yitzchak had to be born from a holy seed? The difference between Abraham and Yitzchak is like this. Avram's inyan is hamshacha, drawing down godliness from above to below. Abraham was a holy person. Avram says he was a very holy person, or he recognized, he knew what God was. And now God said to him, okay, I'm making you the circumcision. You have to deal with it, bringing it into the world. Yitzchak's inyan is halam yilamata lamayla. Yitzchak's thing was starting from the world, raising it up. Abraham's thing is starting from heaven. He was already a holy person, and he came down. He brought it down to the world. And Yitzchak's thing was dealing with the world first and raising it up. Dealing with the bad, just like his birth. The bad had to be dealt with before he could be born. Azoi is very declared, like it's taught. A film in this should be in, I think, in film Maimori Hasidus, and a lot of the teachings of Hasidut, as the avoda from Avram, the service from Abraham is love like water, a liebschaft, a love from the Eibishter to God, welche is geblieben, gleichen, which is compared to water. Water comes down, that's love, just giving. Azoivi mir zak, like we say in the prayer of Geshem, when we pray for rain in the prayers of Simchas Torah, Shmini Atzeret. Zachar Av, remember our father Abraham. Nimshach acharecha kamayim, be drawn after him like water. Just translates. Gedenk them, Father, remember our father Abraham, who had been drawn after you like water. Like water. Next page. Was the Tever, I don't know why when they copied, okay, but thank God it's here. But it would be nice if it was straight. Okay. Was, it's too big. One second. Was the Teva, which the nature from water. How did this happen? 1 second, let's get this over here. Because this makes it sort of fun. Too much. Huh? Is that right? Yeah, okay, good. There we go. Which the nature from water, let's see, let's make this a little bit more over here. Right? Okay, it's a little bit more toward the end. Was the teva, which the nature from water is a rup to nidrin, coming down from oiba from above to below. The avoda, the service from Yitzchak, is love like fire. Karish ve'esh. Phlegm fire. Was the teva, the nature from fire, is tzitzik from unter eben, from below to above. That's the nature of Yitzchak. The unterschied, the difference between Abraham and Yitzchak is nit nor not only in the service which they had served God, nor oich also in their avoda, the service which they haven't oich katan in the Welt, which they did in the world. So Abraham had a different type of love for God. His love was like water, flowing, going. And Yitzchak's love was a flaming, dynamic love. So that's how they related to God. But how do they relate to the world? Avram had gepoiled, Avram brought about in the Welt, in the world, as in ear, that in it, zol nimshach veren, there should be drawn godliness from above to below. What does that mean? When Yitzchak, we'll see, and Yitzchak had gepoiled, he brought about in the world as they aligned that the world itself, zol der haven veren, should be elevated. Veren a kli should be a vessel to get to godliness, hala, going from below to above. Okay, what's the difference between this? We'll see. As at der chiluk, that difference, zet men, we can see also in the ways which they conducted themselves. They lived loited via the Torah, like the stories that the Torah tells us. So Abraham wanted the world to realize holiness. Wanted the world should realize that how good God is, how wonderful God is. The world should realize how holy God is. And Yitzchak wanted to make the world holy. That the world itself should be holy. The world itself should have a desire that Yitzchak didn't have to, how do you say, convince the world, or that the world should realize the truth. Realize the truth. Avram Avinu had mamshir given. Avram he drew down godliness to everybody, and Eretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan, vias given like it was. Vi is given kodem abirur un oich in Mitzrayim. Abraham drew down godliness into the lowest places, but he left them to be low places. They were low places that realized there was something added to their lives. Abraham added a new aspect to the lives of all people. Now remember, there were no Jews then. The job of the Jewish people is to educate the whole entire world. So Abraham educated the whole world. There is God, and I'm the example. And I'm telling you, you can live your life according to the way the Creator wants, and the Creator is creating you, and the Creator loves you, and the Creator cares about you, and the Creator reacts to you, and He provides for you, and He will protect you. You don't have to steal, you don't have to lie, you don't have to cheat, you don't have to worry, right? Pray only to the Creator, connect to the Creator. So Abraham gave the world this sort of option. The world thought that, there's just the world and that there's spiritual powers. And Abraham came and said, no, there's a God that creates the world and the spiritual powers. Worship the Creator, worship Him. So Abraham brought into the world a new aspect. Wow, they didn't know that there was such a thing as a Creator, and that's what Abraham is teaching us. So Abraham came and added from above this new aspect of life called living with the Creator. Until he drew down godliness into Aravim. It says into the Arabs, to the nomads that were traveling in the desert. Araber, Velchaflekt, which were boken to them shtoib, which they used to bow down to the dirt on their feet. He said when he took them in and he said, wash your feet. And then it says that the angels came to visit Abraham. So he said, wash your feet and I will come. He says, what do you mean wash your feet? It's because he was dealing with these nomads, these travelers, that they worship the dirt on their feet. Why do they worship the dirt on their feet? Because a person that's sick, God forbid he's sick, and he can't go out of his house, he can't move, so he hasn't got any dirt on his feet. And the ability to have dirt on your feet means that you're able to go out and do things, it's a miracle. And they would worship the dirt on their feet. Thank you that I have dirt on my feet, like the God of dirt. So they would worship not just the God of the dirt, they would worship the dirt on their feet, actually. And these people that were so, how do you say, small-minded, that's all they cared about, was that they could go out and they could make money, and that the dirt on their feet was a holy thing. They worshipped it. So Abraham wanted to tell them, listen, there's a creator of dirt, and there's a creator of your feet, and there's a creator of you. And good, the dirt on your feet is surely, you should certainly appreciate it, the fact that you can go out and work. But there's a creator, worship only the creator. That's what Abraham brought even to these people, that their concept of what to pray to, of what's above them, was just the dirt that they saw on their feet. And if they didn't see any dirt on their feet, they didn't worship anything. They didn't worship anything. A person like that, there's God that creates everything? What are you talking about? Where is he? Here I got a God that's between my toes. It's the most simple thing in the world. Then I can understand. A God that creates the trees. What benefit do I get from the trees? From this, what creates the earth, creates all the humanity. What do I care? Right, so even a person like that, Abraham convinced somehow or other that if you want to, you can worship the Creator. Was thus is a sama nidrika. This is like the lowest level of worship you can possibly have. A mensch is entitled. A person is divided into three the general categories: a head, feet, and foot. The feet from a person is the lowest part of the body. The shtoib, the dirt which is on their feet, is even lower than the feet itself. These Arabs that in the time of Abraham, right? Abraham was like 4,000 years ago. They seinen gestanen in a zoy nidrika madrega. They were in such a low level as they. One second, let's get this thing. I'm sure there must be another untilted version over here, but I don't know where it is. Here it is. That they haben sich geboken, that they bow down to the dirt which is on their feet. Thus says this means is the intellect in their mind by them is gestanen nidrik, was below even the dirt which is on their feet. From deswegen, nevertheless, Abraham had sich abgegeben. He devoted himself also to drawing down godliness even to them. Azoi vide Chazal, like the rabbis say, oiv tem pasuk, like it says, vayikra sham b'shem Hashem kel olam. That Abraham, he said, he made an inn in the middle of the desert, and he called over there the name of God, God world. Al tikra vayikra, and it says that he called over there. Don't say that God vayikra, that Abraham called out to God. That's the simple meaning. That's what it says. It says, don't say he just called out to God. It's true that he did. That's what it says in the Torah. But there's a deeper meaning. Vayakri, that he made other people call to God. Das heißt, hat gemacht oisrufen. He made others call out to God. Had gepoiled. He brought, because by them, they all enshrine that the other people should also cry out the God of the world. It explains how he did it, that he made an inn in the middle of the desert, and he gave everybody food, and they ordered food, and afterwards he demanded exorbitant prices for his food. And they said, what'd you get prices like this for? He said, all you have to do is just thank God, and it doesn't cost you anything. He said, sure, well, thank God. What's the problem? And he said, here, read this. Thank you, God, creator of the universe, that gave me my food. I'll say whatever you want. Thank God gave me, that's it, you can go. and people started telling their friends, there's this maniac in the middle of the desert, and you just say this thing about thanking God, creator of the universe, for my food, and he'll give you anything for free. And it started becoming like a saying in the world, right? The stand-up comedians, whatever, back then would laugh at Abraham. Thank you, God, for creating the world. Thank you, God, for creating my foot. Thank you, God. Ah, ha, ha. Thank you. But people started talking about what God is. Abraham made, and even these low people that they worship the dirt on their feet, they were calling out the name of God. People didn't know there was a creator of the world. Azoivi, their Indian from Avram, that just like Abraham, his service was drawing down godliness. Azoivi, Azoi Zain and Oich, the veg, the word, the way, when the kalim and the vessels were given and an ofen from Hamshacha. So Abraham, therefore, he drew down godliness. He let everyone know that there was a God up there, a God that Abraham believes in, and that you can also believe in him. Azoivi as ver derzer, like it's told, the rabbis say, as the oifen vis azoi Avram flecht machen bekennen godliness, the way he made people recognize godliness, of der Welt is given durch hachnasas orchim. He brought in guests. Like I said, he made this inn and he brought in guests, anyone who's traveling in the desert, and he gave them water and food and everything. Explains over there that he even gave them, they had even a judicial court, and that they could answer people's problems, psychological problems and legal problems and everything. He took all their problems away, right? Abraham. And he did it for free. All they had to do was just call out the name of God. Just say, thank you, creator of the universe. And he took in Orchim guests in the middle of the desert. They gave him everything they wanted to. And afterwards, when they wanted to thank him, he said, you should bless the one whose food you ate from. So they said, thank you, Avram. I said, no, you didn't eat from my food. You ate from God's food. You should praise the one who spoke and is creating the world. Bench der was is hat gegessen, should bench from who's the one who owns the food that you ate. Who? Namely the creator of the universe. That he was the one who created everything and he's creating the food. That's the thing of Avram. He brought down godliness from above to below. He didn't necessarily change the people that he was teaching, but he just informed them that up there's a God and God cares about you. Okay, that's good enough. What do you have to have any more than that for? That's good enough. That's the beginning of a religion. He says, no, you have to have Yitzchak also. Why? Because Yitzchak's inyan is given, and that's why Abraham prayed, begged, please bring Yitzchak. I want to have a son that's going to carry out my message. And that, why not? You got a nice message, Abraham. Take in guests and tell everybody about God. That's not enough. that's Judaism. Abraham is the big father of Judaism. There's three fathers of Judaism. Abraham's not enough. You have to have also Yitzchak. What did Yitzchak do? Yitzchak's inyan is given, v'frir gezach, like we said before, hala milmata lamayla, elevating from below to above. Kein anachnu yotzim be'achad esrei v'chetzi tia lifnei Beit Menachem. Yitzchak's inyan was, as Frir Gezak, like we said before, hala milmata lamayla, going from below to above. Therefore, hat ernit, he did not, hopefully the next page won't be crooked like this, 1 second. He did not, there we go. Oh, I got used to being crooked. Okay, he did not. Therefore, he did not have any connection to going down to Egypt. Abraham went down to Egypt, right? God told Abraham last week's Torah portion to go to the Holy Land, and he was going to make him big and great. And Abraham went to the Holy Land, and there was a famine. There wasn't anything for Abraham to eat. So Abraham had to go down to Egypt. which is not the case Yitzchak. Yitzchak stayed in Israel. Yitzchak was born in Israel and he died in Israel. He stayed in Israel. He had no connection, and the kind sheikhs didn't have any connection with going outside of Israel. While because Eres given Aola Tamima, he was a pure offering to God. Yitzchak. Und euch sein in Eretz Israel, and even when he was in Israel, hat gehatan mit chafiras beros. He had a lot of problems. He had to dig wells, grub and boiners. He had to dig wells. Was das is maram, as this hints at, of the open from Gilei Elokus, revealing God from below to above. His thing was to not to bring something to reveal what's hidden in the world, what the world is covering over, something like the circumcision. He had to remove the bad. Anplecken Godlichkeit, he had to reveal godliness durch der Heben, by elevating from unten, from below. Vil Medregas Yitzchak, while the level of Yitzchak is given, up getragen is up getragen from Welt, being removed from the world. Hala v'histalkus milamata lamayla, removing from below, elevating everything from below to above. Not reckoning with the world at all. Not reckoning with any of the concealment. Dealing with the concealment, but not reckoning with it. He went to a place where it's a desert, and he starts digging, and everybody says, "You're nuts. What are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to make a farm over in the desert? It's 140 degrees over here, right? There's nothing that's going to grow. There's no rain. There's no anything. Just please don't bother me. Just digging and digging, right? And all of a sudden, what comes? Water, and the water comes up and it irrigates the place. And then when it irrigates the place, then that makes that there's rivers, and that changes the climate already. You can start planting over there. It becomes a little bit cooler, and then there's rain. There's clouds. He changed the whole world by revealing what was hidden below, not paying attention to obstacles. That's Yitzchak. A Zoiver line is given. He changed the world, in other words, is the beginning from Hala. So he elevated things. Hot did zelberzach, the same thing. In the belt, just like he elevated water, took it from what was hidden from below. So he did to the whole entire world. Gemacht from air, he made from the world a vessel to godliness. Was tzitzich, which wants to go closer to God. The Torah like the Torah tells us that Yitzchak's service was digging these wells, as grub the broinams, he was digging wells. This means unpleasant, revealing when a rub gets in and bringing up the living water which was under the earth. Nit arain gason, not to pour into it living water like Abraham did from above to below, not bringing water, irrigating it from another place, nor unplugging, but revealing the kvelendike, the wells, which were found, therefore gufa. Abraham, he added something to the world, godliness. Yitzchak changed the world itself. The world itself became irrigated. He revealed the good which is concealed in the world itself. It already is there. But room the em is, but the truth is, as dort gefinzich mayim chaim, because underneath the earth is found living water. Mer nid was is fathered, it just mit verdeckt, it's just concealed by the earth. Blotta und Steiner, mud and stones. Und b'shas men nimmt up the tzudek, when you take away what is concealing, the covering, unplugged, then is revealed the living water. Was das weist euch an? This indicates oiv sein ruchnius de kavoda, on the spiritual service. A rub nemen de alle Sachen, removing all the things which verdecken, which conceal and hide, und machen die Welt, and make the world for a vessel for godliness. That's what's called hala. That's what's called elevating from below to above. Vida mayim, just like the so the living water alone, which was hidden, velchazainen novea, it starts to flow from below to above. Kvelen from unter aroiv. So the wells were already there. He just had to reveal it. Not like Abraham, that Abraham added godliness to the world. He taught people, he elevated, but he didn't change the people on their own. People revealed there's something above them, which is not the case with Yitzchak. Yitzchak wanted that everyone should realize that within you, yourself, within the world itself can be holy. Nit Norvus Yitzchak, not only which Yitzchak had nit gerechen, he didn't, I said he wasn't bothered or affected with the Kegenstellen, with the opposition, was darten, was decked zu, which covers over this living water, nor noch mehr, even more, or nicht nor gerechen, he did not reckon with kein menagdim, any sort of opposition, welche stellen zum grub, to grub in the Beroina, anything which prevented him from digging the wells. And as he saw clearly, he felt somehow or other that there's water underneath the ground. You have to remove the ground. It's not so simple to start digging. Why? Was the Torah itself, because the Torah says, as b'shas zayin gekumen, when came Avimelech's fastechter, I guess his soldiers, haben vertrieben, and they drove Yitzchak's his soldiers, Yitzchak's helpers, fastechter, I don't know what this word is. Any of the Abraham's, that's what it means. Avimelech, he was like the king of the whole world. He was the king of the whole area. And Yitzchak was just a nomad. He was wandering around with his workers. So when Avimelech's workers, his soldiers, came along and they drove away Yitzchak's workers, verstoppt the boy, and they stuffed up, they closed up the wells. Is Yitzchak nit mitpoil, that Yitzchak was not affected or afraid or moved at all. He said, okay, let's dig in another place. Noch mehr, even more. Afilu wenn men hat zugenommen the Broinem, when they took away the wells which the servants of Yitzchak had dug, und sie aweg gegeben zu Pelishtim, and they gave the wells away. The Pelishtims took over those wells. This means a tifazach. This is even a deeper thing. As they lebediker, as the life und Warmkeit and the warmth to which men had sich kium their graben, all the effort and the life and the hope and everything that caused them to dig the wells and that they revealed as nemen menara from the klippas from Pelishtim. Klippin is mavoy mefuleshet. The word Pelishtim really means like a broken through way. Polesh means to break through. So in Judaism is very, how do you say, like a human body. There's a lot of laws of anatomy, and that they have to be exactly followed by the body. The heart has to be in a certain place, and the lungs in a certain place, and there can't be any holes where there shouldn't be any holes, and there must be the holes that are in the body must remain open, and there can be closed. And if these laws are broken, so then destruction, tragedy occurs, right? Something is closed that should be open, a valve of the heart, something gets open that should be closed, right? A person that gets a bullet, something like that, is bad. So that's the idea of Pelishtim. Pelishtim is to open things up. The same way it is in the human body, so it is in the soul. The soul has to be limited. That's like the laws of the Torah. Tells us what should be open and what should be closed. What you should do with yourself and what you shouldn't do with yourself. Right? You want to get married, have sexual relationships. You have to have only with your wife and only a certain time. And certain time. You want to have money, but it has to be earned honestly. It has to be all the things that in the world, there's limits, what you should do. The whole idea spiritually of Palestine is to be open. There's no limits. We can see that today, right? With the Palestine, no limits. Forget about the Torah. No such thing as Jews. No such thing as laws. Such thing as right. You can murder whoever you want to. You can rape whoever you want to. Go do whatever you want to. Right. So it says that Yitzchak. This all began in a big way also with Yitzchak. Yitzchak dug the wells. He reached holiness. He reached living waters. And the police team took these living waters, this holiness, and they stole it. They stole it. They used it for their own purposes, the excitement that Yitzchak revealed and the life that Yitzchak revealed for godliness. They misused it. Oich Demet also, Yitzchak also was not mispoiled, but this did not affect Yitzchak at all. And he just went and dug new wells. When they took away those wells, as Yitzchak, also the same thing, he dug more. Bizer is Tzuinkum until he came to the well, which is called Rechovot, which is a wide way. And then they didn't cover it up. Al Pisechel, according to logic, is nit given. There wasn't any place to not be affected from Avimelech. Why? Avimelech was the king of the whole entire area. He was the king of the whole area. He had tens of thousands, who knows how many soldiers that could have, and Yitzchak was not affected by him at all. How could this possibly be? It says because Yitzchak did not have any connection with, because that's what Yitzchak's job. Yitzchak's job was to change the world. Or the Broinim, because, and therefore, and he succeeded, and the wells that were taken away from Avimelech, that Avimelech took, is Yitzchak, the didn't have any effect on Yitzchak. Yitzchak had sich aber nicht gerechnet. He did not reckon at all with any sort of logic. And once again, I only have 15 soldiers, and Avimelech has 10,000 soldiers, and he tells me not to dig wells, so I won't dig. He didn't make any of those calculations. Erat Gevust, he knew the whole thing is revealing living waters, and that's what he did. He lived this service. This makes the world a vessel for godliness. It changes the world. Is Beli Gavul Amiti, that the world can actually reach a true unlimited level. The level it can reach levels of good, which there's no end to good. There's a song very popular now in Israel. Od yoter tov, od yoter tov, od yoter tov, od yoter tov, od yoter tov. More and more good. There's infinite good for God. And that can only be revealed from below to above. Varum, because durch them, because by means of this, during the tachlis of kavana, you're doing what God wants. All the darkness and the bad in the world, God is creating it. And He's creating it only so that we should not be affected by it and that we should continue doing good. Azoy via state, like it says, the reason for Anrufen mit Namen Yitzchak. That's why Yitzchak was called by the name of Yitzchak, because tzchok, he made a joke. I mean, if you ever heard of a stand-up comedy, comedians, the main thing about a comedian is surprise. They say things you wouldn't think. I never thought of that. Ha ha, it's very funny, right? I thought differently, and all of a sudden I realized how ridiculous how ridiculous the world is. Things that I took for granted, that's the world. All of a sudden he makes a joke. That's the thing of Yitzchak. Yitzchak, so to speak, made a joke from the whole world. The whole world became a happy place as their bureau, that the refinement, when all the things which in the world which conceal, which even take away godliness, which godliness is, that's the Elohim, is a name of God, which is plural. How God, so to speak, seems to divide himself, to create this all the diversity of the world, as the world sometimes can cover over the name Yudke Vavke, as to change this, tzchok asali Elohim. That's what it says. When Yitzchak was born, it says tzchok, happiness made for me, Elohim. The name of Elohim is the aspect of God that conceals over the true godliness, that makes a world. Why does God make it? Because in order to make tzchok, that we should make happiness from this concealment. According to this, now we can understand and why Yitzchak had to come from a holy seed from Abraham. This means because Abraham's level on its own, this is like called Atzilut. Abraham was tremendously holy, revealed godliness. And by means of Abraham doing the commandment of circumcision, then he can come to being Tamim, pure. Abraham, This is an idea from godliness, which is above, even higher than Atzilus, Abraham. And from this, only then could come Yitzchak. Why? Because Yitzchak's thing is the true purpose, fixing up the world. And that there's no limits whatsoever. Not even the limits of holiness, like Abraham was. Yitzchak, and it was Abraham could bring godliness to the world, but then he was finished. He couldn't do any more. He just brought godliness to the world. The world remained world. Yitzchak's thing was to change the world so that it could reveal even a higher aspect of the Creator in the world. Maybe I can give you an example. Maybe it's like having, let's say, a teacher in class that he's an excellent teacher. He teaches and you see that he's inspired. Let's say he's teaching everybody mathematics or music or Torah or Lahavdil. He's teaching and you see that this person is really enthused by it and it's really exciting and it's really wonderful. And he becomes like a role model for you. That's like Abraham. Abraham was like a role model for the world, right? He was excited about God. He showed it's possible to be excited about God, about the creator of the universe, and etc. Abraham. Then there's another type of teacher where he takes, let's say, every pupil individually, and he sees there's pupils that are having a little bit of problems, a little bit of troubles, a little bit of difficulties, and he talks to them, and he deals with them, and he gives them a good word here, and he gives them a pat on the back over there, and he tries to, tries to explain to them why their attitude toward their parents is not bad. Your parents are maybe they're not yelling at you because they hate you. Maybe they have their own problems. Maybe you're misunderstanding them. And he talks to them from below, and he reveals that they themselves become inspired. They're not inspired for you. They're inspired. You help them to find who they are in themselves. That they themselves are really good. Not that they see, wow, you are really good. They feel that they themselves, that's like Yitzchak. He dealt with the bad. They aren't clearing, this is what does this mean to us? Anwesend, what is the teaching? Abraham and Yitzchak, both of them are called fathers from the Jews. By Yeder Yid, by every single Jew, you have to have both of these types of service. First of all, you have to be very high. You have to elevated. You have to have a good feeling of what God is yourself. The avoda from Avram, the service of Avram, and the service of Yitzchak. And when a Jew, Hatzutan, is dealing with the Torah, prayer, doing the commandments, so he can find himself in a light, in a world of light, of a good feeling, positive. Erad Nitzutan, he doesn't really deal with the world, nit nor, only when farnemt sich mit the zwei kavim, from Torah and Avoda. But what? He does prayer, Torah, and he prays. Nor afilu wenn farnemt sich mit kav from Gemilah Sosadim. And even when he's doing charity to the world, he's doing the commandments, as was darf tan mit kashmis, he has to do with the physical world. Is aber from deswegen, nevertheless he is Dalmot farnumen from Mekayim Zayin, the Ratzon Elyon, he's dealing with the will of God, with God alone. He's being an example, if you want to call it. Mer nitvas is mamshich dem ebishters. He draws down the will of God into the world. Learning Torah makes the world holy. It impresses the world, right? It says that by King David, he used to sit and learn Torah, and the commander of the army was Yoav ben Surya. And said Yoav, he fought battles. So if King David wouldn't learn Torah, it wouldn't have given the spiritual power to Yoav to win the battles. But of course, if Yoav didn't fight the battles, then they would come in and kill King David, right? They have to figure. So there's two sides. So King David didn't deal with the world, so to speak. He sat and learned Torah. That's also good. That's like the aspect of Abraham. But he didn't have anything to do with the physical world. The same thing with us. There's Jews that they sit and they learn Torah all day, and this improves the world. That's like Abraham. The learning of the Torah brings blessing to the world. When Kol Shechein, how much more so, doesn't have anything to do with any sort of opposition. are the things which conceal godliness. Is a filu men hot by that darga, even if a person is by this level, is you have to know that nor that noch nid does is the tachlis. This is not the ultimate a good Jew. You're not yet the ultimate. You're a good Jew, but not the good way you're supposed to be. Hot there blows the avoda. You just have the service of Abraham, which Abraham is okay, but this is the service of which bringing God from above to below. But you have to have Yitzchak also. Mendarf haben Satan, you have to deal with the world. It's a little bit tilted, but not as bad as before, okay? You have to deal. Aggravation. There we go. You have to deal with also those which are outside. Externally, they seem to be like stones or blood or mud. Jews, which seem to be like rocks and stones, which they demand, which conceal the living water. And also with them, you also have to be concerned to remove those, even those people that oppose God actively. Thus, this means mit azoina, which those people which externally far zunken in isurim, that their whole life is just dealing with things which are forbidden. They do, think, say things which are against the Torah, even purposely, or they do it even to anger God. Oich mitzeh, also with them, darf men zich farnemen, you have to deal to grubben in ze. You have to dig in them also, removing from them the things which are concealing. Don't think that a Jew, just because he's opposed to God and that he's a what they call an apostate, that therefore he's not a Jew anymore. That maybe that used to be in a long time ago, but it's not so. Biz men vet zich dar graben, because you can you have to try to influence him until you can reach the living water which is found inside of him. Inside of every Jew is holiness. You have to dig and find it. How are you going to dig? Find a nice way, say nice words, but the goal is put the tefillin on him one time. And thus, unplug, this will reveal the godliness which is inside of him in a revealed way. A person can say, one second, I already tried this a lot of times. I tried it a lot of times. I know who this person is, and I've tried to deal with him. And is nit nor was zet nicht. Not only does it not help, nor adara, but even more, it's getting worse. The person is really one second. What happened? What did I do? One second. I did something wrong over here. Here we go. Let's try it again. Oh, yes. No, that's right. Even it made things even worse. The Palestine, the Palestinians, it says the forces of evil, they took away the bride. They took away all my work that I've done. He just uses it. He makes fun of me, whatever. Is was for an ort in the al pi seichel conviter grubben. Why should I deal with this person anymore? I've gone to him. I'm just wasting time. I'm wasting energy. He doesn't want to have anything to do with me. So, I'm not dealing. I'll deal with people that maybe there's a better chance. Or if the answer is I should Kodesh, you did me better. You should know that you come from Yitzchak and you have a holy spark inside of you. The service of Yitzchak is, and the children has to be without any considerations. It didn't work up to now. Forget about what happened, the bad things. Think only good. Thus was by biz it's until now. Hater nit matzlich, you didn't have any success. Like we said, like Yitzchak, he dug the wells and the Palestine, they covered them over. It says, and sometimes they even stole the wells. That which you didn't succeed up to now doesn't mean you're on the wrong track. No. Thus is their Abish, this is the God's, that you didn't succeed up to now, that's up to God. You don't have to deal with the secrets of God. What's regarding to us is you have to keep digging and digging and digging until finally you will come to the living water which is inside of every single Jew. Finally, you will find the Harachiv Hashem Lanu Ufrinu Ba'oretz, that we will be successful and be multiplied in the earth with the arrival of the Moshiach now. Okay, now let's do the. So you have to be like Avram and bring godliness above to below, be a good example, do Torah, commandments, etc. But you also have to go out and deal with people whatever any possibility you can is tell Jews about Torah and tell non-Jews about the 7 Noahide commandments. You don't have any success, don't worry about that. That's not your business. Every moment is brand new. Make a new start.